Hello and welcome to Gravitas Wins Conversations. In 2014, I wrote an article saying future of jobs is partnership of experts. In it, I argued that experts will come together much like actors, musicians, and directors come together to make a movie. So when I came across Shresth, who has founded a company in this domain, I couldn't resist inviting him to the podcast. Hope today's conversation gives you some perspective about this trend and also help you play along in this domain. Hey, Shrivastav, welcome to the conversation.
Hey, thanks, Joseph. Thanks for having me on your podcast. And, uh, you know, very happy to share my thoughts with you. It was really, fortunate for us to connect because after we spoke for the first time, I did read the article. And, my thoughts are so in line with that article. And I'm so happy that you thought of it almost 8 years before now. It's just amazing, and I really couldn't miss up an opportunity to chat with you about the same thing. So thank you for having me here, and
Great,
looking forward to a very engaging conversation.
great, Shrivastav. Let's start with your startup. What is Big Gig and what's the key insight that is behind that venture?
So BGig, Joseph, for us is, well, we first started off as a concept to become a marketplace. And then we realized that by just being a marketplace, we're not doing justice to it. So
Mhm.
we see ourselves as an ecosystem of gig workers, right? Now, there's a difference between a marketplace and an ecosystem now. Earlier marketplaces, and you'll see there are a bunch of marketplaces out there, right? So we're definitely not the first freelancing marketplace per se, but we want to be the first freelancing ecosystem. Now, how does an
Mhm.
ecosystem differ from a marketplace is while everybody else is interested in, connecting enterprises with freelancers, we want to take it to the next level. There are some, needs which are clearly identified, right? Where every freelancer, every platform out there is offering freelancers, exciting gigs, ability to make money on the side, and so on and so forth. But we realized that, after we spoke with almost thousands of freelancers, we realized that there is an unmet need in the market which nobody was really looking at. And that unmet need was, uh, you know so many other things that corporate or full-time employees get, as opposed to, freelancers. So we set out with the mission that we will get these freelancers or gig workers the same benefits, and therefore have to create an entire ecosystem, right, where they
Mhm.
come in and they get the same benefits that a employed sorry a corporate employee or a full-time employee would get. So BGig, in a nutshell, is a freelancing ecosystem which connects tech freelancers with enterprises.
Mm. Okay. So when you say benefits, are you talking about, say, for example, insurance and then so on and so forth? Can you give me a little more
Sure,
detail about what
sure,
kind of benefits are you talking about?
sure. So, I mean, the most obvious one today is insurance, right? Because one of the ways in which freelancing differs from a full-time job is that, when you sign up as a freelancer, or rather when you sign up as a full-time employee, your organization offers you medical insurance. Some of them even give dental, so on and so forth, accident insurance, so all of these other wonderful perks. But when you sign up as a freelancer, you miss out. So insurance
Mm.
was really the most low hanging fruit, but there are other needs beyond insurance that if you can really start looking at. So for example, um, I was a employee before this, right? And some of the things that were offered to me included, advisory on how to file my income tax, right?
Mm.
Or it was advisory given to me, or I was eligible for some perks like paid family vacations, uh, you know certain other allowances like, and there were some tie-ups which our parent company had with other organizations, so I would get discounts and so on and so forth. So we started realizing that one is on a very uh, very basic level, there are these gaps which none of the other ecosystems, or rather none of the other platforms, are looking at today. And that's something that we set out to address. The second part is that we also realize that beyond these materialistic needs, there are some psychological needs, right? I'll give
Hmm.
you a very interesting example. One of the earlier conversations, again, from the various conversations that we did with freelancers, uh, the mindset or the respect that comes with the word freelancer today is not where it needs to be, right? There are
Hmm.
very few who have progressed, and who now realize that freelancers can probably out earn a lot of us. But the mindset or the word still comes with that stigma that that you're probably not doing so well in life, and therefore you decided to do freelancing. So that's the other part that we want to address, we want to challenge, and we want to change the perception as well, that really gig workers today are rock stars who choose when they want to work, who they want to work for. And it's not like they are uh, they have a dearth of opportunity, right? So that's what we are trying to address. We're trying to show that there is enough opportunities out there. Um, and it's really a very big homage to the whole fact that the entire world has embraced work from anywhere as a culture. So that is definitely giving that push as well. But more and more people realize that I don't necessarily have to fall into that 9 to 6 frame of mind. So obviously, yes, there is that expectation that is helping us, but on a larger picture, we are looking at benefits, some corporate benefits, like insurance being the most common one. But let's see if you can help people get upskilled, if you can get them certain perks that they would have gotten in the full-time role, like paid vacation, so on and so forth. So those are some of the other things that we're looking at to create that entire ecosystem.
Yeah, as you rightly said, Shred, that it's an ecosystem, and so you are also building a kind of safety net for these freelancers by providing not just the insurance, but then also all the other. Just for example, the discounts that I might get,
Mhm.
I might lose all of those perks. So you are creating that kind of a safety net, and also you are making it easy for freelancers to become freelancers, or somebody who is considering these things. Hey, you know what, it's not that bad. You will have all of these things. Probably it is even more, and it is safe to become a freelancer or a gig worker.
That's right. That's right. And at the same time, again, I think you've hit the nail on the head by saying that more than a safety net, what we're trying to look at is how do I make sure that it gets projected as not just a viable alternative, but suddenly people start looking at it as their primary choice rather than a option to fall back upon, right? Because so there is this data scientist who we work with. Um, my friend, he used to work in the US, was was a part of one of the, and we've discussed this story earlier. He was in one of the fang companies, or rather now mang companies, and was doing pretty well, always wanted to come back, but didn't have the opportunity to do so. And then he decided during the pandemic that he wants to come back. And funnily enough, he's a huge nature lover, right? And he loves the mountains. So he bought a small piece of land in Ranikhet, which is one of the towns up in the hills, and started living there. Is now based his entire life out of there. Does remote assignments, does 2 or 3 assignments for 1 or 2 for a small startup. Then he has his own main job, and then he's doing 2 or 3 gigs on the side. And he said that he was willing to take a pay cut as well, and now he's just enjoying life, right? So for him, the equation wasn't so much as uh, you know freelancing is okay, whatever. But now he actually enjoys his freelancing and his gig work more, and he's now taking up advisory roles in a lot of other companies um, on their data science stuff as well, right? So he's helping them out formulate their strategies and so on and so forth. So he's now thinking of actually quitting his main job and doing
Hmm.
this on a regular basis.
Hmm. Okay. See, when I graduated out of college, I'm talking in the 90s, 94s, our parents would go for a walk and they will all be very proud to say, my son or a daughter is working in a government company.
Mm,
They're having a government job.
mm.
And at that time, working for IT was, why would anybody work for it? There is no future in IT. Now, then IT became something that was sought after. Now everybody is very proud to say, I'm working in Facebook, I'm working in Meta, I'm working in TCS, or my son is working in Infosys, and so on and so forth. So that mind shift has happened. In that particular sense, what kind of societal changes would help accepting this particular kind of format in a much more positive way?
So for another great question. So Joseph, if you look at it, let's break it. Let's break down what you just said, right? So let's say the 90s belong to the early 90s belong to government jobs, right? And then after that, there was a transition towards working in a tech company, and now there is a transition towards even people accepting. I mean, with the boom of unicorns and startups just going crazy left, right, and center, then there people started understanding that entrepreneurship is a viable option as well. And until you see the recent trend, and kudos to what is happening on Shark Tank, you've seen that the
Hmm.
impact that a show like that would have on the society at large in creating more budding entrepreneurs, right? I think there is a natural progression here, and society will change at the rate at it is supposed to. So nothing that you and I will do right now will cause an immediate change overnight, right? But what it will do is gradually, when people start understanding that being a freelancer is almost being what I call the word as solopreneur, right? When
Hmm.
you are
Hmm.
running your own business, you have decided that this is your main source of income. You could start later on, and the best part is a lot of our freelancers get together in small groups. It's a group of 3 friends, group of 4 friends who will just come together, do a project and this thing, and they have a lot of fun. And then when they start realizing that this fun is also paying for their bills, is when they
Hmm.
start realizing that maybe it's not such a bad option after all. Then the bigger part is, and we live in a society which is so amazing that bigger part is that when I have to explain, or rather I personally had a tough time doing this, but when I had to explain to my parents what
Hmm.
freelancing entails, right? And just getting them to understand that, hey, this is a viable option, I think. And once they understood what was really going on, and the kind of uh, money that was coming in, that's when they started realizing it's not that bad.
Very
Obviously,
true.
the bigger challenges still remain, right? Which I told you, which is the gap because of no insurance, no perks, there's no safety, and there's no progression, because all of those things still remain, right? So people are still slightly hesitant. But once
Hmm.
this concept of all of these other things, right? Because if you look at it, people are slightly going away from safety, right? So government
Correct.
job, IT, entrepreneurship, right? So the amount of safety is just taking a dip. But with that, because the risk appetite is also increasing, I am pretty sure that when people start looking at gig working with the same lens, they'll understand that the payout with respect to the risk that they're taking is justifiable. And the bigger part is, all my conversation with Gen Z folks, all my conversations with millennials, people are rejecting the 9 to 6 culture anyway.
Correct. Hmm.
I mean, if I talk about myself, I can't sit and do 9 to 6 anymore. It's just not in my DNA anymore to have a boss who tells me that, oh, you need to do this. And sometimes for me it just used to get so repetitive and so mind numbing that for me
Hmm.
it just became that, I can't. I mean, sometimes I would just feel the frustration, and then other times I realized that the goal that I set out to do in my firm, I could get that accomplished in, let's say, 2 days out of the 5 days. The rest
Mm,
of the
mm,
3 days, I'm just sitting around doing nothing, twiddling my thumbs, right?
mm,
That's not
mm,
how I function. So those 3 days, I would invest 2 days in trying to learn something new, pick up a new skill, or network, or catch up with friends or whatever. And then I realize, if I'm already living that lifestyle, right? Why do I need somebody to tell me that, listen, this is the kind of work that we expect out of you, right? I don't need that hassle in my life. So that's so when I hear the Gen Z and the millennial folks speaking the same language, it gives me a lot of joy and it gives me a lot of pride, right? Because knowing that this is the wave that is going to come anyway.
mhm,
The second part to this is, it's the same workforce which wants to believe in a cause, which wants to believe in a mission, right?
mm,
If that's the workforce that is going to come in, and if you are not adept at letting them believe in multiple causes, right? If you can't offer them that flexibility, you are going to lose out. And we're seeing the talent war going on right now, right? uh,
absolutely.
the United States calls it the great resignation, or whatever we want to call it. But more and more people have realized that I don't have to go to work. I can sit at home. I can do the same amount of work, probably get a lot more done. I can enjoy a quality life rather than, just slaving away in front of a computer in a restricted environment where I'm told what to do and somebody else judges, whether I have done met their expectations or not. So it is about taking back
Mm,
control. And I'm pretty sure when the Gen Z and the millennials keep entering the workforce, we're seeing the shift happen, but I'm sure that it will uh, exponentially increase. And what we will see is, uh, the ecosystem develop a lot more.
absolutely. I completely agree with you on that, Shred. Now, what type of employees we probably we should stop calling them as freelancers and we should call them as solopreneurs.
I
Now,
wish I could take credit for that term. It's a term which is being used before.
yeah. So, which type of employees fit into that kind of a role? Is it all low level people or is it at the executive level? Which one suits better in this?
So, Joseph, I let me answer it again with, giving an answer that I'm seeing on the ground right now, and
Hmm.
then something which I foresee maybe in the next 3-4
True.
years. Right now on the ground, at least, and I'm giving you an example based out of India, because majority of my clients are India based. Right now, people are okay to get up to a manager level as a freelancer, right?
Hmm.
Because they're still experimenting with the concept. So traditionally, what people used to call as, uh, you know, as a KRA in the development team is now being outsourced as a work package, right? That this is the defined outcome that I have. And if this is the defined outcome, I need these two roles to come and fill this outcome and deliver that for me. I don't necessarily have to take them on my payroll.
Mm.
Once those work packages start accumulating, right, is when you start getting into a solution level discussion, right? So you could essentially say that I don't need the architect on my role full time, on my
Mm.
role full time. I can just hire an expert who comes in, who just does the solutioning for me, tells me that, you will need these two roles, or you'll need these 5 skills to get this work done, and you will probably need a project manager to get this done. Take that concept one step further. If at an executive level you get somebody who has the industry knowledge of, let's say, x number of years, and can at the same time bring that knowledge set to you for, you will need them for, let's say, 10 hours, 15 hours, 20 hours. You don't need them 24 hours, or rather 12, 13 hours a day. You just need them to bring in the right expertise, to bring in the right knowledge when you need it, and then it can
Hmm.
disband. So on the ground right now, like I said, till the manager level, people are comfortable. Very few people are experimenting it at a CXO level. In fact, uh, I think it was last month or the month before that, where I was on a CII panel where we were discussing the same thing, where we had said that, will the role of a CIO or a CTO become gig?
Mm-hmm.
I think the interesting conclusion that everybody reached on the panel was not right now, but
Mm-hmm.
they see it happening in the next 3 years, 4 years. And you and I both know that's not true. You and I both know that there are examples of CTOs who are in gig. It's just that, it's just that that mindset still prevails. So my answer is there is nothing which is going to stop a CXO, a CTO, a CIO, CFO becoming gig. But people aren't that used to the model right now, so they don't know how to work around that model as of now. But if we create secure um, environments for you know individuals to work in, and by secure I mean from a data security point of view, where maybe we use virtual desktops, we use whatever, where the intellectual property of an organization stays within that company, I don't see a challenge in a CXO role becoming a gig role in the future.
Okay. So I want to touch upon that particular thing because today the problem, or rather the doubt that people have, is an architect or a higher level person, architect or a CTO or a CFO for that matter, if they were to be fractional, they come work for me for some time, then they move out, and if they work at the same time in multiple companies, what happens to my intellectual property?
Right.
Will there be a leakage? How can we address that?
So, like I said, Joseph, I think one of the ways you can do that is virtual desktop environments, right? So you create a box where everything goes on there, and you do that. Second is uh, there are enough distributed systems which are coming up, right? So maybe you use that, you start leveraging smart contracts to do your transactions and things
Mm.
like that. And to be honest with you, I don't know the answer right now, right? Because it's something that even I am trying to figure out, that if that is the answer that we can solve for today, I think there will be nothing left for us to discuss 3 years from now, right? But I think virtual desktops, VDIs are there. VDIs are one possible solution. Secondly, you know, the the other part that I think that people also hesitate on this is around accountability, right?
Yes.
Not just data privacy, but even around accountability. So let's say if I'm working for 5 different organizations, how can you confirm, or how can you be sure that I am giving my 100% to your project? Essentially I'm not, I'm giving 20% of my time, right? But even in that 20%, are you getting what was promised? And that's where that mindset needs to change, from monitoring the number of hours I'm dedicating to you to the output
Mm.
that I'm delivering for you. If you are clear on the goal that you want me to deliver on, right? If the organization is very clear, crystal clear, and we see this with a lot of the enterprises that we work on right now, they have crystal clear outcomes. And the more clear and the more well defined the outcome, the easier it gets for um, the delivery of the project to happen, because there is a defined and agreed upon milestone that, yeah, this is
Mm.
where we need to go. So the trust and uh, the trust in the system starts increasing, and people generally start thinking that, oh, you know what, I don't need to make sure that he's there sitting on across the table for, let's say, 6 hours a day, as long as the outcome is being met. I think it's a work in progress. I think the early adopters have it down. They've started. In fact, we learn a lot from our customers on this as well, right? So when we take a few learnings from a set of our customers, we try and advise the next set of customers that, we have a client who does something like this. Maybe that's a practice that you can follow as well. They define outcomes, and outcomes can be broken down into milestones, and these are some of the things that you can do. We've seen that, best practices start getting and it's not just us. There's people hire consultants today who help them do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've realized that, these are some of the things that help build that trust into the system more and more, and people want to try out. So given the scenario that we're in, where there is a major talent crunch, where you still need
Mm.
a lot of your tech work to get done, people are willing to experiment right now. And they're realizing that the new path, which is hiring solopreneurs, is actually more rewarding in some cases than waiting for the full-time employee to join, because you're not sure. The in the industry today, offer to joining ratio is 50%. There's a 1 in 2
Absolutely.
chance that the guy you hired on the day of, or the person you hired on the day of joining might just give you a call and say, hey, you know what, uh,
Correct.
I got a different offer, I got a better offer, right?
Yeah.
So, and
Very
that's
true.
something that we haven't come across with solopreneurs so far.
Mm. Very true. Uh, Okay, so now changing gears a bit, talking from a solopreneur or a consultant or a employee perspective. Now, this is a new model that's on the horizon, that's coming up. What skills, other than the core technical skill that I have to build, other than that, what are the skills that will help me to thrive in this kind of a new environment?
Oh, brilliant question, because this is something that we actively work with a lot of our solopreneurs to, or rather our gig workers to focus on, right? So amassing technical skills is good, because and mastering them is even better. But there are a lot of soft skills that actually help you cross the line, right? So
Mhm.
I'll tell you, the the one thing that is really important is your previous customer feedback, right? And the relationships that you, and that gets highly leveraged, or rather that gets highly um, used in a manner in where that it shows again that trust, that that
Mm.
this person can deliver the work that they say. So the second part is that on so soft skills like actually being able to network with your client and build relationship, or having your portfolio up, right, on
Mm.
any one of these um, on any one of these libraries where people can just go and see the kind of work that you've done in the past, because it shows that, yeah, there is a verifiable link that says that whatever this person is claiming actually exists. The third one is putting in an effort to brush up your language skills, your communication skills, because you never know where your next opportunity is going to come from. Today, uh, the concept of boundaries is gone, right?
Very
So
true.
I could get a next gig from, let's say, somewhere in Eastern Europe, right? So as long, and there are some cultural things that I may need to just pick up before having that conversation, right? So if I know that there is somebody who's going to interview me from that part of the world, at least being aware of that culture helps, right? So putting in that effort, putting in that research to understand who am I interacting with. Then there are other things like obviously the very basics, the sheer basics, that it never hurts to pay it forward, right? So when
Mm.
you know that there is a talent out there for which the demand is somewhere that so for example, I had when I started off this business, I wasn't looking so much into referrals, right? And that's when I realized that referrals is probably the best way to get freelancers today. When people started referring other people for roles, and that concept of paying it forward actually helps a lot, right?
Very true.
Because you're now not only doing this for yourself, but you're getting other people, known people, quality people involved. So again, it increases your trustability quotient, right? And then you start your profile starts to seem stronger. So that concept of paying it forward is something that we've seen that works wonders. So there are these things that you can do, right? Portfolio, social skills, do a bit of research, um, and pay it forward, that really really helps people get these gigs faster. And again, certifications, a lot of people, a lot of enterprises, when they interview, they ask for certain certifications, right? So if it's a skill that you can get a certificate for, definitely get it, because again, third party validation of your skill set really helps.
Mm. Mm.
So the core message being that this this entire setup, this entire economy works on trust. So whatever you can do to help increase the trust in your profile works.
Wonderful. Shrest, this is a concept that I've been thinking about and I've tried to implement it to some extent, but I can keep on talking about this for long because as I said, it was just an idea in my mind, but now I see that you have brought it down as a concrete concept,
Mhm.
so we can keep on talking about it. But thanks a lot for taking the time to share what consultants can do, what solopreneurs or the would be the wannabe solopreneurs can do
Mhm.
to play in this particular domain.
Mhm.
And good luck for whatever that you are doing. I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Joseph. Thanks so much.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Please share what you liked in our conversation on social media and tag us. Connect to Shresth on LinkedIn and see how he can change your life and change your career. Thank you. Have a life of bits.